So hello and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Saskia and I have just finished my degree at University of Southampton doing psychology. I thought today I would do two mini things combined, and basically because my last video that I've uploaded would have been a 49-minute rant about how much I hate the University of Southampton, and all of my next few videos planned are also talking about how much I hate the University of Southampton, I thought we'd do a more light-hearted hating of the University of Southampton. What I've got is I'm going to basically do how difficult is my degree in tier ranking. So I'm going to go through all of my modules and basically tell you if they were difficult, but because our university is really fucking awful, I'm doing it in two parts. So the first part is how hard is the content, like if you just did the content, would you find it difficult? Second part, which will be the second half of the video, is going to be but are you allowed first? Because a good example of this is Intro to Psychology. The content, you could probably get along with that, it's quite friendly. Could you get first in any of the assessment methods? No. Is it because you don't understand the content? No. So that's the kind of vibe that I'm going for. I will talk through all my tiers and I will talk through all of my modules. We're going to start with all of the modules that I've done. I've split them into first year, second year and third year. First year I did Individual Differences, Psychology of Mental Health, Behavioural Neuroscience, Research Methods 1, Empirical Studies 1, Intro to Psych, Attractiveness, Thinking Psych. In second year we then did Empirical Studies 2, Research Methods 2, Language and Memory, Social Psychology, Intro to Health Psych, Perception, Crim Psych, Developmental Psych. Third year we then did Research Paper, Sexual Health, Educational Psychology, Literature Review, Childhood Maltreatment, Advertising, Clinical Psychology, Human Sexual Diversity. I've done 8 modules each year, 24 modules in total. Then in terms of the levels of difficulty, starting at the bottom we've got GCSE. I don't think any of them could go into GCSE, but we'll see. We've then got BTEC. Is it just BTEC content? Is it actually quite straightforward? Also, I did a BTEC before anyone's like, yeah, just... I did a BTEC. A-level? You know, I'm thinking A-level. Then got IB higher level. As someone that did the IB and also teaches IB and A-level, IB's harder. Don't think that's too controversial. We've then got the 3 years of university. Like, this should be first year content, this should be second year content, this should be third year content. Basically, I'm going to start with first year. First year in semester 1 we did Attractiveness, Research Methods 1, Intro to Psych and Thinking Psych. We'll start with Intro to Psych because I feel like that's the most logical one. Intro to Psychology is what it says on the tin. 90% of it is A-level content, and like realistically it could go in A-level. However, there are 2 weeks of content that are perception and sensation. I don't understand them. I've finished my degree now and I don't think I could explain perception or sensation to you. So I reckon begrudgingly it could go in first year because I reckon you could get along with it in the IB, but it should be a first year module. I would agree that overall first year level of difficulty. We've then got, let's do Thinking Psych. Thinking Psych is a module they don't do anymore, which is really sad for everyone. But Thinking Psych is basically just like it's a tutor group module. It's a every Friday, meet with your tutor and talk to them. This is how you do an ABA reference. There's no content. Like, if there was any content, it was all, you know what? I'll put it in BTEC. If there was any content, it was how do you make a reference? You Googled it, it told you how to make a reference. There was not a single thing that was actually like thinking. You had to make a PowerPoint, but again, you got your handheld. You had to write an essay, but again, you could submit an entire draft. Like, content-wise, there was no thinking involved, no difficult thinking, no thinking psychologically. Then we have Attractiveness. This, I think, is kind of most people's favourite module. It's basically just A-level relationships. Nothing harder. It will go in A-level because it is just, if you do AQA psychology, the A-level relationship section, if you do the IB relationship section, I don't think we really went any further than that. Like maybe a tiny bit, but again, you could wrap your head around it. We'll then do Research Methods 1, which is the last module from semester 1. This is a first year module. Like, it's basically an introduction to stats, but I think it was all hand computations. And like, had it been like SPSS, which is just like our online programming, I would have ranked it easier, I think, because anyone can kind of learn how to press buttons on SPSS. Hand computations of like standard deviation and ANOVAs, difficult. Like I know a lot of people who did A-level maths in like the statistics section, would have like covered pretty much all of the content. But as someone who only did GCSE maths, it's not bad, it's doable, but it's a lot of, you actually have to pay attention if you're going to do well in it. Then have semester 2. Semester 2 we had individual differences, which was just personality and intelligence, which could be IB high level. I would say it's a first year module because of the personality section. Intelligence is the exact same as if you do the IB and you learn about like genetic behaviours, the Bouchard's twin study. It's just that. Personality though, there's like 400 models of personality. The slides were so difficult and confusing. Like I couldn't tell you anything from the personality topic of it. The intelligence topic I could. Like I would say the intelligence could go in IB higher level, A level, but the personality section is first year. And because it's individual differences, personality and intelligence, but it's what, 95% personality, 5% intelligence. We then got psychology of mental health, which was just like, what did we even do? It was depression, schizophrenia and dementia. I will put that at A level. I don't think anything that we learned about like diagnosing it, like the etiology of disorders, we learned a bit about stigma. Nothing that I would say was difficult. Like we didn't learn any particularly complex models or any particularly complex like reasonings behind disorders. Like I would say that's not too difficult. Behavioural neuroscience. We were lucky that we had this online, as in like assessment in online, because now they have to do all the assessments in person and I simply couldn't. Behavioural neuroscience is essentially, if you do A-level or IB, it's all of the neurology section of like, how do things cross a synapse? Sodium and potassium channels. The first like 7 weeks are horrible. Absolutely horrible. Like I did IB psychology, IB biology. I could get along with like the first 3 to 4 weeks of content, and then we started talking about like eating behaviour, but it had nothing to do with the eating behaviour things that we'd learned in biology. Like it ended up being completely different. Like I'm going to tell you that's a second year module. I think the last few weeks doable, but still not good. Like the last few weeks were about like the biology behind, I think, anxiety, dementia, and something else. And big brain words. Like I think the reason people would struggle is the big brain words, not necessarily that the concept is difficult. Like my final exam question was about fear conditioning, which is just, you know, classical conditioning and operant conditioning. But it was then like, how is this biologically pre-programmed? And I had to talk about the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which I still don't know where it is, but it's involved in fucking everything. Like, no, not doable. We then have Empirical Studies 1, which was basically learning how to write a psychology report. And then I think we technically learned how to run like an ANOVA, but we never actually really ran it, I don't think. I would say it's a first year module. I would say you could potentially get away with it in like the IB in terms of like the writing the report of like the intro, but then you had to actually run the stats tests. Like the running of the stats test was definitely first year content. The writing of like an intro was probably IB or A level, especially because it was actually taught well. Like a lot of these modules just simply were taught shit. This module was taught well enough that even if you didn't fully get it, it didn't really matter. So that is first year. First year RSK is, I would say, true to its word. Most of the modules in first year are first year doable. some of them are boring and some of them are too intro, but it's because universities do not require psychology to come and do a psychology degree. So like they have to give you the intro of like even things that we've done in second year. Doing the IB, I'd already covered it. Like they have to give you the foundations of all of that information. We'll then do second year. So second year semester 1 we did social psych, health psych, research method 2, language and memory? I think that's what we did. So, social psychology, I think that's a first year module. Like, I think social psychology is one of the ones that's easier to get your head around. Like, out of like psychology, like cognitive, health, developmental, social psychology, a lot of it does just make sense. Like, if you've done A-level, like social influence, it just makes sense that people would do those things. Like, it's logical that people would, you know, conform more because of X, Y, and Z. A lot of it's pretty kind of, I guess, straightforward, logical, makes enough sense. So, social psych could have been done in first year, social psych should have been done in first year, and then behavioural neuroscience should have been done in third year. Not the other way around. Although our university basically does it where you do one research methods, one cognitive, one social module, and then like an extra of fun. So, we then have language and memory. This is difficult because language and memory are pretty much two separate topics. Like in the sense that language didn't really click for me up here. Difficult, confusing cognitive models I still can't grasp. Memory was A-level content. It went a bit further because we also looked at like cognitive assessments of like if someone had memory impairments. We also looked a bit about no, I think it was pretty much the exact same as A-level and the IB, and then it was like remembering surprising events, Loftus and Palmer, the working model of memory, Baddeley and Hitch. Like not anything particularly new, but if I could split it, language would be second year, memory would be first year, but language is only, I think they're both equal. I think language is 5 weeks, memory is 5 weeks. But I think because, I'll put it in second year because of language. So we then have intro to health psych. This was an optional module, so you could have either done this or, intro to criminology, I think, or like an educational module, or your language module if you're doing like a minor in French. This was like the first few weeks of content, all of the modules were just things that I'd already done, and if you've done the IB and you did the health psych topic, exact same. But then there was difficult weird bits on like pain, and like the biology behind pain and the biology behind things. I would say it could have been done in first year. I think every intro module pretty much could be done in first year because they're not difficult. Like I don't really know why they're in different years. And also intro to psych was not compulsory, but I think it should have been compulsory. I don't know what I would have swapped for it, but I feel like it's a whole branch of psychology. Like clinical psychology is compulsory, we have to do it. But we don't have to do health psychology, which is also a key part of psychology. We then have last module from semester 1, research methods 2. This was hard. It was one of the only well-taught modules again. The content was hard. Like remembering, not necessarily like running the tests was too difficult, but then knowing what do I write up. Like I could go on SPSS, press all the buttons and run you an ANOVA, but if someone then says write the APA write-up from memory, what do you want from me? Like, I think that wasn't a definite second year module. If there was a middle between second and third year, because I would say it's not third year hard. It's not what I think you'd be doing in third year, but it was hard. Yeah. We then have developmental psychology. Developmental psychology to me was very hit or miss. I guess some of the bits were just attachment, like A-level attachment, very straightforward, didn't really go any further than A-level attachment. But then we had things on like metacognition, theory of mind, things that are just hard to wrap your head around and hard to actively explain because they're like theoretical concepts. Like a lot of it was kind of A-level attachment, IB attachment, but then things like metacognition and like the development of language, the development of a sense of self, they were difficult. I would say that's similar to language and memory in that like half of it doable in other years, half of it not so much. Like it could be a first year module. I reckon you could wrap your head around it in first year, but you wouldn't want to, you'd rather not. We then have perception. This is horrible. Perception is just biology. It's just, how does the eye work? There are also a few weeks on like touch and stuff, which I didn't even get to because I was still trying to figure out how the fucking eye works. Like, I couldn't, that is a definite second year module. Could even be a third year module. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I could answer questions on it because it's kind of, you read it and it's straightforward, but it doesn't mean I know it doesn't mean I know why I'm saying that. Like, I could tell you, colour blindness is this. Doesn't mean I understand that. I could tell you, oh, this illusion is this. Like, a lot of it was on, like, optical illusions, and I don't understand them. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Definitely couldn't have done it in first year. Could have potentially done it in third year. Like, it has potential to go as a third year module. But second year doable, definitely second semester. We then have empirical studies 2, which was again just report writing. But it was kind of, I think it was supposed to like prep us for when we did our research papers, but I don't think we actually had to write an intro to it, or a discussion. It was pretty much just writing up results. Like it was not useful as a module, but I would say it's a second year module purely because of the stats. Like it was like one of the sections was make a questionnaire. That BTEC, anyone could have done that. The running stats tests and writing up stats tests and like interpreting all of your own data, too difficult. Like, again, could be a third year module, but I think not quite. I don't know if there'll be any modules that go into third year because I feel like we haven't done anything too difficult. I don't know. We've then got Crim Psych, which was an optional module. You could have either done Crim Psych or Cognitive Neuroscience. Cognitive Neuroscience, fuck, that wasn't doing that, way too difficult. Crim Psych, that's a first year module. Like, Crim Psych was what it says on the tin. It was about like remembering events, police interviewing, like, you know what? No, I think I'd even put it in IB. I think none of it was difficult to wrap your head around. There was a lot of theories, but then because you didn't actually have to know any of the content for your assessment methods, it wasn't that bad. Like, everything, there was a lot of content, but it did all make sense. It was all logical, and it was probably one of the most interesting modules. That is second year. Second year was actually harder than first year, but again, some of the modules were kind of split in that part of it was really hard, part of it was quite easy. We've then got third year. Third year I did research paper, sexual health, educational psychology, literature review, childhood maltreatment, advertising, clinical psych, human sexual diversity. Semester 1 I did intro to educational psychology, lit review, sexual health, maltreatment. First thing I'm going to do, intro to educational psychology, that is a first year module. Any module that says intro in it should be a first year module. I have no idea why this is a third year module, even though like some of the bits are like about introductions to like working memory or like thinking in a classroom. But if you've done A-level, you're more than fine. Like, none of the content is difficult to wrap your head around. It's all a bit repetitive. It's all kind of, here's a snippet of this section, here's a snippet of this. None of it's like, I'm lost, because I guess it's not, because it's an intro module, it's not like you're doing 10 weeks on this really difficult model. It's a 1 week on the foundations of this, 1 week on the foundations of this, and like, what, one of the weeks was what's an educational psychologist. I wouldn't call that hard content. Got childhood maltreatment and mental health, which, like, the sound of it doesn't sound like it would be difficult, but some of the weeks on like genetics and like gut microbiome, what does any of it mean? Could it be a third year module? I reckon it's a second year module, or it's a second year difficulty, because again, we did more on attachment. Like, we did a lot on like internal working model, Bowlby, like a lot of that kind of stuff. But then you just suddenly were hit with, then the gut microbiota develop. Now what? Yeah, you were then hit with like gut microbiota, so that didn't really work for me. We then had sexual health, which was like understanding sexual health or something. And here's the thing, we were not taught this module, which makes it very difficult to rank, because we weren't taught anything. Like, the lecturers would have a 5-minute intro to the weekly content, and then your assessment method was that you did a presentation, and your presentation was teaching the cohort on the content. You weren't taught anything at all. And you know what? I'll put it in A level then. If we'd been taught anything and there was any concepts, but like a lot of it was just quite straightforward of just, oh, this is why people have sex. This is why we should wear condoms. This is why teen pregnancy is happening. Like, none of it was particularly like, oh, get your head around this horribly confusing concept and then you have to use this model to understand it. It was just, here is a factor that influences this. Here is why we care. Move on. Yeah. We then got literature review, which I think, again, this is all obviously my personal ranking, but I think, again, the literature review hugely depends on what type of review you're doing. Like, I did a systematic review, really fucking hard. Like, a systematic review, my literature review, third year content. Had I just been doing a literature review is pretty much just an essay. Like, I would say I will put it in third year, because for me it was a third year module. And also because it's entirely independent, like, yeah, you don't get supervision, but like, it's also 4,000 words, which funnily enough, our degree, we do essays that like, what, maximum 2,000 words, and we've done one 2,000 word essay. I don't know how to bulk up 4,000 words. I don't know how to do it. Like, a lot of people didn't know how to use search engines, and like, we weren't taught how to do any of this. So I would say that is a true third year module. We've then got semester 2, human sexual diversity, which is similar to sexual health, but more sexuality, models of sexuality. I would say this was harder than sexual health, but I would say it could be a first year module. Again, like, part of the content was on like attractiveness. Part of it was on like different types of relationships. I was like, this is all, politely, I think social psychology is one of the easier types of psychology, and I don't think that's controversial, because it's just, here's a theory, hee, we proved it. Whereas cognitive is we use 17,000 different models to try and figure this out, and now we have this final complete model, and I'm like, then what's going on, girls? I'm a bit lost. Clinical psych, I'll put in second year. I think the beginning bits of like, what is ADHD? What, we don't do ADHD, like, what is anxiety, is just looking at the DSM criteria. That's piss easy. Some of the content on like the causes of disorders is then kind of hard, and like the different types of medications. I personally found, I wrote an essay on this, and my essay was on addiction. I personally couldn't have grasped that until about second year. We then have advertising. Content-wise, I think it could be second or first year. I reckon content-wise I could have grasped it in first year. The way it was explained by our lecturer makes it a second year module, because he'll give you an easy concept and then he'll fluff it up and make it seem really complex when it's really not complex. And like reading a lot of it makes a lot of sense. It's just social psychology. It's how do you persuade someone, pretend that you're persuading them to buy this. It's social psychology times 2. But I would say the way that it was presented, some of the weird bits of content could be first year. I'll keep it in second year. Research paper, third year. I think regardless of what level of work you were being asked to do, as in regardless of how many stats tests you were doing, what type of data you were using, it was fucking hard. Running your own stats tests, designing your own questionnaires, analysing all of your own data, fucking difficult. Like, I don't care how spoon-fed you were, it was hard. And that's basically all my modules. I think that's a pretty fair representation. I think a lot of our modules are not hard. And I think, here's the thing, in third year, because I think everything was pretty much optional, none of it could almost be too hard, I think. Like, the only bits that were hard, funnily enough, were the bits where you did completely independently, because if you're getting no help with them, if I got my hand held, I could have done it in first year. But because I had to do it all on my own, it's kind of difficult. Like, so that's basically how hard the content was, or the concept of it, I guess, because a research paper isn't necessarily content. Let's do a rapid fire run through of can you get a first in this module, because it doesn't matter if the module is easy, see intro to psych, doesn't mean you're allowed a first. It's hopefully gonna be a rapid fire because I've already spent 30 minutes on this. Individual differences, 72 if you're lucky. Yeah, they'd give you a first. Psychology of mental health, very controversially. A lot of people got like 62s in it, me included. But then in the second part of it, I got 78. So I would give that a 68 means perfect. Oh, I didn't even go through the tiers. Read them. Behaviour and neuroscience. Essay, 65 for everyone. Maybe 62. Short answer questions, you were allowed a first, and that evens us out, I'd say, to 68 means perfect. Research methods 1, first for like 3 people. Normal distribution, if you are not the top 3 scoring people in the whole class, fuck off and die. Like, I got an 86, well, I got 86% in research methods 1. I was given 66%. So if I'd got 90%, would I have got 70? Would I have even been allowed a first ever? No. Attractiveness, 68 means perfect. I don't know a single person that did not get a 68 in that module. But like, well actually, could that be a first for everyone? Because basically we had an essay, like a final essay, and then we had 5% like multiple choice questions that you could keep going until you got 100% in them, which meant if you got 68 in the exam, you got 70. I'm gonna call that a first for everyone, because I think everyone got 68 in the exam and therefore ended up with a first overall. Thinking psych, first for everyone. Everyone. Empirical studies 1, again, different methods. The first thing, which was a research proposal, I got 78. They were like, Slay, you popped off. The second thing was like you wasn't 100%, so we're not gonna give you 100%. But you know what? That's either a 72 if you're lucky or a first for everyone, because they were happy to give out firsts. They would have given you a first if it was good. Ooh, that kind of hurt me. They would have given you a first. I did do all my stats wrong in it. But, oh, maybe I am gonna go for first for everyone. Intro to psych would rather die than give you a first. Doesn't matter that the content was easy. We made posters. And we also group posters of like 14 people to 1 poster. Doesn't work. We were explicitly told don't use Simply Psych. What did my group use? Simply Psych. Yeah, next question. Second year, Empirical Studies 2, first for everyone. If you didn't get a first in that, we were spoon-fed. 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 Research Methods 2, first for like 3 people. Again, if you were not the top 3 people in the class, you're not getting a first. Language and memory. Again, the assessment for language, happy to give you a first. The assessment for memory, not happy to give you a first at all. I'm gonna go for 68 means perfect, because I got 65 in my assessment, which I thought was fucking great. She gave me like 2 negative comments, but in my short answer questions it was 72. Social psychology? I think 72 if you're lucky. Or is it a first for everyone? Because we did journals, they were happy to give you like 72s firsts. Then in the assessment of like essays, they were happy to give some firsts. You know what, I'm gonna say first for everyone, but like, not everyone. Intro to health psych. Again, 2 different assessment methods. First assessment method of writing a health intervention justification, 72, first for everyone. Second one, would rather die than give you a first. In 1 question, but the other 2 they were quite happy. I'm gonna go for, first section would be 72, second one would be 65. So I'll go for 68 means perfect. Perception, again, 2 different assessment methods. First assessment method, a presentation, a PowerPoint, which they were marked out of like points, but if you got 20 out of 30 points, you didn't get 66%, you were then fucking removed. Like we got 86%, 85% out of the 30 points, we were given a 65. Doesn't matter if you do well, but the assessment, like the essays, they were happy to give you a first. Does that again put you in a 68 means perfect? Because first time, you're not getting a first. Or would it be first time was first for like 3 people, second time was 68 means perfect. Does that put it in 65 for everyone? I'll go for 65 for everyone. Crim psych? 68 means perfect. We had 1 assessment method, it was a big report. Even if it was perfect, 68. Developmental psych would rather die than give you a first. We had 2 assessment methods. First one was writing a critical evaluation. Mine was like, oh my god, Slay, they loved it, perfect. It was a 68, so it wasn't fucking perfect, was it? Second one was normally distributed. We had multiple response questions, not multiple choice. It was one in which all 4 answers were correct, and you had to rank the answers as to which one was the most correct. No, you had to select. Out of 4, it could have been that 3 of them were correct, but it could have been that 1 of them correct, but it could have been that all 4 of them correct, but it could have been that 2 of them were correct. And like, even if you got 70% raw, I think I got given a 50 in that, a 55, and I had 70% raw in it. So, would rather die than give you a first. I think that's my second lowest module in my whole degree, even though I had a 68 in the first bit. Literature review, 72 if you're lucky. I think this was iffy, and I think a lot of people were given 72s, but a lot of people were also given 68s, and some people were just given 78s. I was given a 78. Research paper, haven't actually been given a grade yet, but I think it's going to be a 68 means perfect. Because it's stats and because they can be like, oh my god, but your APA is not perfect. What our university does is if your work is chef's kiss, they'll give you a 68 and they'll say minor APA issues. I think that's what everyone's going to get in their research papers. It's going to be, your stats were lovely, your concept was phenomenal, minor APA issues, 68. Sexual health, 68 means perfect. We were rudely given 2 2s in some of the bits, as a fluke, but also as a non-fluke. But when we did like a perfect essay with like 1 line of feedback, 68. Educational psychology, would rather die than give you a first. This was a module which was run by 1 person but marked by 2 people. Person 1, first for everyone. If your work was marked by person 1, first for everyone. If your work was marked by person 2, 58 or 62. Nothing better, you were stupid. Childhood maltreatment, I'll go for 72 if you're lucky. I was given a few 72s but told my work was perfect, so it wasn't really 72, was it? It was better. And then my final assessment I was given a 68. So you could get a first, really dependent on if they liked you. They did like me, so I did well, but they didn't like some people, so they didn't do well. Advertising, I'm gonna go for 65 for everyone, and I think that's just me being salty because he won't stop giving me 65s. He won't stop giving me 65s, and then he gives me my 65 and he's like, here's my reason why your work was a 65, but his reason is literally like, oh, I told you to do this. Basically, hear me out. Basically, so like we've done like a print advertisement where we had to pick a picture. We got to give them a draft, and in the draft say that we were told, your picture's perfect, love it, chef's kiss. You would then be given a 65 in your final grade, and it would go, your picture's fucking horrible, I hate it. That's the vibe of what he's doing. Human sexual diversity, kind of iffy, because I've had a 72, but I've also had a 65. I think that's a 68 means perfect. I think we average us out, we go for 68 means perfect. Clinical psychology, 68 means perfect. We've not got our results for the second assessment method yet, but for the first one, we were told your work was pretty much banging. Minor issues with APA citation and referencing. What were they? Prove them to me. Where were they? You can't. So basically, you're getting a 68 or a 65. If you take a stats module, unless you're the top person, you're not getting a first. Is, I guess, how hard my degree was. I'm sure people will have other opinions, but like, make your own video. Like, some people will have found some of those modules a lot harder or a lot easier. I found a lot of them quite easy because I think I'm quite smart. In a non showing off I'm the smartest bitch ever, things come to me quite naturally. I pick up on things. Had I not done A-level psychology or IB psychology or IB biology, this shit would have all been harder. But it wasn't. So basically, my degree is not that hard. Third year, I was a bit stressed purely because we had 17 pieces of work due at the same time and no one would give you a first or any help. Not because the modules were hard, like the optional modules, where was the difficulty? There wasn't any. And then, can you get a first? No. Basically, if we look at it, you can get a first in first year, and then a lot of 68s in second and third. So if you come here, I hope you enjoy 68s when your work is chef's kiss perfect. And I also hope you enjoy the odd, 58 when your work is chef's kiss perfect, but the lecturer hates you. So yeah, that is everything. That is, I guess, how hard my degree is, how hard each module is. Again, people will have different opinions, but if you've got a different opinion, make your own video. And I'm sure my next video will also be quite negative, because basically I'm going to do everything wrong with the University of Southampton. We all know that's going to be an hour long. Like, my last video that's just been uploaded is going to have been 45 minutes long. This could easily be 45 minutes long, depending on how I edit it. But it's not too negative. It's not the most negative thing I've ever done. Everything wrong with the University of Southampton will be... That's going to be a lengthy one, so... strap in for that in the next few weeks. Yeah, and don't come to this university.